I want to announce that we have made Forbes magazine in an article that was written by Peter J. Riley, who is a contributing writer to Forbes magazine. And how we've made Forbes magazine is in the interview we did with Dr. Kent Hovind last week. And Peter Riley, a contributing writer for Forbes magazine, has listened to that interview and has written about it in Forbes magazine, has gone through several of the details of the things that we discussed with Dr. Kent Hovind and our interview. And let me just read the opening statement that Peter Riley writes about looking at Kent Hovind's innocent claims. He says that Kent Hovind believes he was wrongly convicted on tax-related crimes in 2006. And now he is facing new charges. And one of his responses has been to go on the telephone interview circuit. And I gave a partial rundown of his appearances yesterday. Today, I would like to discuss Kent's innocent claims on the original charges, which he, understandably, the focus of his interview. For some context, I'm going to give you his interview with Pastor James David Manning. So there we are with Dr. Kent Hovind and the Making Forbes magazine. He goes on to write, Pastor Manning raises some of the key issues. Starting around 49 minutes into the interview, Pastor Manning distinguishes Kent from Al Sharpton, noting that even though Sharpton owes a lot, he had filed. And he goes on to note, that is, Pastor Manning goes on to note, that as a pastor, he knows that you can pay people as independent contractors, but it needs to be clear that they are not employees. And I did make that point with Dr. Hovind during the interview. And Peter Riley continues to write in Forbes magazine, Pastor Manning does not get very deeply into the issue with Kent, but his is the only interview I've heard that raises this at all. And so that is a segment of the introduction, if you will, of Peter Riley's article that now appears in Forbes magazine that was raised by me. He also references, and he goes through several of the legal statutes, deals the 501c3 exemption status. He goes through several of the statutes that gives churches, pastors, clergy to be exempt in ways and not exempt in others. And he goes through the trust fund aspect of withholding taxes for the employees as well. And what Peter Riley does, he does a very good job citing several credible sources on what is tax exempt, what churches, how they ought to respond to several issues of the tax code. We think Peter Riley does a very good job. He's well researched on this issue. And that churches are not exempt from employment taxes. And that's the question that I raised with Dr. Hovind, as opposed to what's happening with him and with Al Sharpton. But it goes on to say in this interview, in the interview that Pastor Manning has with Kent, mentions that ministry is having, Kent Hovind mentioned that his ministry having 45 people on staff. And it goes on to say that Reverend Manning started honing in on that issue a bit around 50 minutes into the interview, but Kent pretty much indicated that other people were taking care of that particular matter. So there are a couple of things that we want to note. First of all is that we are at least thankful that this matter of Dr. Kent Hovind's dilemma and imprisonment has reached national attention through Forbes magazine. We are glad that that has happened, and we want to thank Peter J. Riley for choosing our interview to focus on his innocence and the claims that he's making about his innocence as well. We further want to state that Dr. Kent Hovind will be placed on going back to trial starting on the 9th of February in Pensacola, Florida. The new charges are wire or mail fraud, as I best can interpret them. They're in Pensacola, Florida, relating to Kent Hovind's property there in Florida that was put up for sale by the IRS. And Dr. Hovind indicated that the property had not been free and clear and therefore, buyer beware of the IRS attempt to sell the property. The IRS considers that, or the government now considers that, a letter of fraud and mail fraud from a U.S. prison, and they're now trying him on those charges as well, which he could face a multiplicity of 25-year sentences on top of the fact that he's already been in prison now for more than 8 years. The associate pastor of the Outlaw World Missionary Church, Dr. Wiley Drake, will be in Pensacola on Monday to cover that trial for the Manning Report. And we'll be getting live updates from that trial from Dr. Wiley Drake, again, associate pastor of the Outlaw World Missionary Church and pastor in his own right, pastor of the First Baptist Church of Buena Park, California, in Buena Park, California. We'll be covering the trial there in Pensacola, Florida. So starting on Monday, February the 9th, we will have updated accounts of the event as it goes forward. But we're excited and glad that Dr. Hovind has gotten the attention of Forbes magazine through the interview that we conducted. So all is not lost on some of the things that we do. And I think this is the first time that Forbes magazine has ever covered anything that we do.